ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀਓ। ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਜਪ। ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ। ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਜਪ। ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ। ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਜਪ। ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ। ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਜਪ। ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ। ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਜਪ। ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ 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 ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀਓ। ਤੂੰ ਮੇਰਾ ਪਿਤਾ ਤੂੰ ਹੈ ਮੇਰਾ ਮਾਤਾ ਤੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਜੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਨ ਸੁਖ ਦਾਤਾ। ਤੂੰ ਮੇਰਾ ਠਾਕੁਰ ਹੋਂ ਦਾਸ ਤੇਰਾ ਤੁਝ ਬਿਨ ਅਵਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੋ ਮੇਰਾ। ਕਰ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰੋ ਪ੍ਰਭ ਦਾਤ ਤੁਮਰੀ ਉਸਤਤ ਕਰੋ ਦਿਨ ਰਾਤ। ਕਿਛ ਰੂਪ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਛ ਜਾਤ ਨਾਹੀਂ ਕਿਛ ਢੰਗ ਨਾ ਮੇਰਾ। ਕਿਆ ਮੋਹ ਲਹਿ ਬੋਲੇ ਗੁਣ ਬਿਹੂਣ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਿਆ ਨਾ ਤੇਰਾ। ਹਮ ਪਾਪੀ ਸੰਗ ਗੁਰ ਉਬਰੇ ਪੁਨ ਸਤ ਗੁਰ ਕੇਰਾ। ਡੰਡੋਤ ਬੰਧਨ ਅਨਕ ਬਾਰ ਸਰਬ ਕਲਾ ਸਮਰੱਥ। ਡੋਲਣ ਤੇ ਰਾਖੋ ਪ੍ਰਭੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇ ਕਰ ਹੱਥ। ਗਿਆਨ ਧਿਆਨ ਕਿਛ ਕਰਮ ਨ ਜਾਣਾ ਸਾਰ ਨ ਜਾਣਾ ਤੇਰੇ, ਸਭ ਤੇ ਵੱਡਾ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਨਾਨਕ, ਜਿਨ ਕਲ ਰਾਖੀ ਮੇਰੇ, ਸਭ ਤੇ ਵੱਡਾ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਨਾਨਕ, ਜਿਨ ਕਲ ਰਾਖੀ ਮੇਰੇ।
ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ। ਸੁਖ ਦੁਖ ਜਹ ਪਰਸੈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਲੋਭ ਮੋਹ ਅਭਿਮਾਨ, ਕਹੋ ਨਾਨਕ ਸੁਨ ਰੇ ਮਨਾ, ਸੋ ਮੂਰਤ ਭਗਵਾਨ। ਉਸਤਤ ਨਿੰਦਿਆ ਨਾਹਿ ਜਿਹ, ਕੰਚਨ ਲੋਹ ਸਮਾਨ, ਕਹੋ ਨਾਨਕ ਸੁਨ ਰੇ ਮਨਾ, ਮੁਕਤ ਤਾਹਿ ਤੈ ਜਾਨ। ਹਰਖ ਸੋਗ ਜਾ ਕੈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਬੈਰੀ ਮੀਤ ਸਮਾਨ, ਕਹੋ ਨਾਨਕ ਸੁਨ ਰੇ ਮਨਾ, ਮੁਕਤ ਤਾਹਿ ਤੈ ਜਾਨ। ਸੁਖ ਦੁਖ ਜਹ ਪਰਸੈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਲੋਭ ਮੋਹ ਅਭਿਮਾਨ।
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਪਾਵਨ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਹਜ਼ੂਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਠੀ ਹੋਈ ਗੁਰੂ ਰੂਪ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਪਿਆਰੀ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀਓ, ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਲੱਖ ਲੱਖ ਸ਼ੁਕਰਾਨਾ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਬੇਅੰਤ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪ ਸਾਰੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੋੜ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। Sad Sangat ji, we're so blessed to be able to come into Guru Sahib Ji's sanctuary, to be able to listen to their part and their Bani. And Sad Sangat ji, as we're going through this Ladivar Katha of remembering Sadguru Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj for their Shahidi Divas that will be remembered as the 350th year this year in November. And in their remembrance, Sad Sangat ji, we're going through their Bani of Salok Mahalla Naam, that last Bani that we had from Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, where they explained to us about the purpose of living this life and what we can achieve through this life and how do we connect with Paramatma. And this Bani Sad Sangat Ji, Guru Sahib Ji blessed us with so many teachings and so much encouragement to be able to do Simran, to remember Akal Purukh Vaheguru Ji in everything that we do. And Sad Sangat Ji, as we've been going through the Saloks, in the last Katha that happened a couple of weeks ago, we got through to the 12th Salok. Today, Sad Sangat Ji, with Guru Sahib Ji's Kirpa, Tan Tan Satguru Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, may they bless us and themselves allow us to go through their Bani and try to explain only through their Kirpa, through their Ashirvad, through their blessings, what their Maharaj is trying to say to us. And only Guru Sahib Ji can help us do that. So our Sad Sangat Ji, let's go through the remaining sloks for today of slok number 13, 14, 15 and 16 with Guru Sahib Ji's Kirpa. Hanji.
Satnam Sri Vaheguru Ji. Sukh dukh jah prasad nahi, lobh moh abhiman.
So Sad Sangat Ji, in these next few sloks, Guru Sahib Ji is talking to us about how do we balance life? How do we deal with everything that's happening in life? And how do we get to a state of where we're in and what we call equilibrium? Or Gurbani says Sahaj. Gurbani talks about being in a equilibrium kind of states of where we're in a uplifted Jardi Kala state. But what does that really mean? You know, it's so easy to say we should try and achieve a mental state or a condition where we're one with the divine. But Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji so beautifully and eloquently, they go and explain these different things to us. Maharaj sanu samjhaunde ne कि ਆਪਾਂ ਸਹਿਜ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਆਉਣਾ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ when we're in that stage state, what happens, what are the consequences, what are the results of being in that state. And in this very first example, in this very first teaching, Guru Sahib Ji is saying to us, Sukh dukh jah parsai nahi. Let's just explain what this means. Sukh as in happiness, joy, Dukh as in suffering, pain, illness, whatever that might mean, in terms of what everything it covers. Jai par se nahi. So Guru Sahib Ji here are talking about an individual, a Gursikh, who isn't affected by Sukh and Dukh. So let's just understand what this means first. So Sukh. Guru Sahib Ji in Gurbani, many panktiyan, many shabad tell us to achieve a state of happiness and joy. And that joy, that happiness, that Sukh is an inner Sukh. A state of inner peace and inner bliss. Andarla jada sukha pakaida. Here in this pankti, Guru Sahib Ji is not referring to that inner bliss. That inner bliss is achieved from what Gurbani says to us. Maharaj saying Sukhmani Sahib Ji the part, Simro, Simar, Sukha Pavo. The very first pankti of Sri Sukhmani Sahib Ji the part, Maharaj is saying to us, Simro, meditate, Simro, meditate, Simar, Sukha Pavo. By meditating, they repeat it 3 times. By being in a state of remembrance of the divine of Akal Purkh Vaheguru Ji, we will achieve an inner state of bliss and joy. Maharaj even say, Simro, Simar, Sukha Paya. Very similar to Sukhmani Sahib, but this Shabad comes earlier in Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj on Ang 202. Guru Sahib Ji says, Simro, Simar, Sukha Paya, Charan Kamal, Guru Hriday Basaya. And how do we achieve that inner Sukh? Is when we get Guru Sahib Ji's Charan, as in their Bani. We imagine Guru Sahib Ji, we're in their feet, we're humble, we're coming in from a place of humility. And we say, Maharaj, we just need you. I need your Gurbani. When we put that Bani in our heart, Charan Kamal, Kamal is like this lotus flower, the beautiful essence of Guru Sahib Ji. Charan Kamal, Gurbani for us, Gur, Hriday Basaya. When we have Guru Sahib Ji's Bani and Guru Sahib Ji constantly within our consciousness, in our mind, in our being, then we're able to achieve a level of Sukh. So Maharaj is constantly encouraging to have that Sukh. But the Sukh they're talking about here, in Sukha Dukha Jai Par Se Nahi, is the Sukh that we try to achieve through materialistic objects. It's the Sukh that we are going out in the world to try and buy items and get things, be it many examples of, I don't know, let's say designer clothes or different kinds of cars, or let's say different houses, whatever that might be, even food. It could come down to anything that we think is going to give us a level of Sukh. But that Sukh, Sad Sangaji, that happiness and that joy is short-lived. It's temporary. Because when that item of, let's say, designer clothing is worn out after a few years and it's in bits, we give it to charity or we end up putting it in the bin and it's gone. And then we go and find some more and we try and get something else. So this Sukh, Maharaj is saying that it's the materialistic Sukh that they're talking about, the things that the world gives us. Then Dukh, Maharaj is talking about Dukh here. And Dukh in this context is the Dukh that we suffer on a, let's say, a daily basis. In the previous Katha Satsangaji, you may remember, there's 3 kinds of Dukh. There's Adi, Beadi and Upadi. Adi kind of Dukh, Adi is a mental suffering or mental illnesses, anxieties, depressions, and any other things that are happening in our mind. They're a Dukh as well. A Beadi Dukh is a Dukh which is external in our body. So a physical ailment, let's say we talked about diabetes last time, or blood pressure. For some people, even more serious, any physical ailments like cancer, or anything that is affecting your body, that's a Dukh as well. And the third type of Dukh is Upadi, which is a suffering caused by external factors. It could be a car accident, it could be anything that's happening outside of our body and our mind. But we struggle with that. These are our Dukh that we experience every day. And Maharaj knows that all of us are experiencing a level of one of those Dukh to some kind of degree, shape or form. But Guruji's Bani is constantly trying to help us come into a state of such a bliss, such a place of joy, such a place of Anand, where this kind of Dukh is not going to touch us. How does this Dukh inflict itself upon us, this worldly dukh, this bodily and this mental dukh. In the Sangrand Shabads of Kathak, the month of Kathak that will be coming later this year, Maharaj say in that Shabad, Kathak karam kamavane, dosna kahu jog. Now in this month of Kathak, they're saying Kathak karam kamavane, dosna kahu jog. Whatever we're doing in our life, not just in the month of Kathak, the teaching is of that month, but what we do in life, Kathak karam kamavane, whatever karam we're doing, dosna kahu jog. Don't blame other people for what's happening in your life. They're telling us to take accountability and responsibility for what's happening. Don't blame other people for what's happening. Dosna kahu jog. But then they explain in the next pankti, Parmesar te pulya, vyapan sabbe rog. All these rog, all this dukh happens to us when we forget the divine. When we forget Parameshwar Vaheguru Ji. When we forget God. So let's just take that into context a little bit. There's a person who is in a state of anguish, person who is, let's say, mentally inflicted for whatever reasons, could be in anxiety, could be stressed, could be depressed, could be any of those things, any rogue you can think of. If they are away from Guru Sahib, if they're away from the divine, let's not even say it's in the Sikh Dharam, let's say it's in any faith, but they have not remembered divinity. They have moved away from the fact that God exists, and they're not believing, not experiencing. Satsanga Ji, Maharaj is saying this to us, Parameswar te pulya, when you forget Parameswar, vyapan sabbe rog, that rog is going to be more severe, more inflicted. You could get into more of a state of ill health. Mentally, maybe physically. How many Gursikhs have we known, I'm sure you've come across, who even on their last moment, their last breath, when they're on their deathbed, they're still in Chardi Kala because they've got Naam, Guru Shabad around them in their hirda all the time. They're in acceptance of what is happening to them. They're in acceptance of the fact that whatever someone says to me, I'm okay with it. Mainu koi dukh nahi lagda. I'm not in any anguish or pain. I'm not being tormented. My anger is not strife and going crazy. They're not inflicted by any dukh because they're in Chardi Kala. They're in that state of avastha where any kind of sukh or dukh doesn't touch them. I'm sure there's many people we know like that. And I think of, if we think of like Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji from Basics, many times we know that they were so unwell. And Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji, even though they were not well, they continued their seva till that last breath. They continued going forward. They were never in a state of wanting sympathy. They were never in a state of, being in a state where I can't do this and I can't do it. They still pushed that prachar right to the very end. Satsanga Ji, so this dukh, Maharaj is saying that this worldly dukh that we experience every day is real. But Guruji is trying to help us get away from that. And in this Salok, they're talking about Gursikhs, people who are Gurmukhs facing the Guru, and these are the ones who are not touched by Sukh and Dukh. They're not moved by anything that happens in their life in terms of happiness and joy. An example, Sad Sangaji, of Sadguru Siddhi Guru Hargobind Patsha Ji. Siddhi Guru Hargobind Patsha Ji are sat in Sri Amritsar Sahib, in Harmandir Sahib. And when they're sat there, they're listening to Asa Divar in Amrit Vela in the morning. And they hear the news. Maaf karna, I did a gesture of a phone, but not by phone. A Sevadar came to them. And a Sevadar came to them and said, Guru Sahib Ji, Maharaj Ji, badi kirpa hui, I've been so blessed that you have just had a child born. Your youngest child has come. Come and see your child in your home. Mata Nanki Ji was in their mahal, in their home. And Siddhi Guru Hargobind Patsha Ji, if we were a normal person, if we heard the news that we've had a son, we'd go running to go and see our child. We'd go straight into the room, go into the home, wherever that child is. We'd go and see our wife, we'd go and see our child, and we'd be so happy and overjoyed. But Siddhi Guru Hargobind Patsha Ji weren't touched by this news of Sukh. They stayed in the Darbar, listened to the whole of Sri Asa Divar. After the Darbar di Samapti, they then went to their mahal. They went to their home, to their palace, And then they saw their young child, who was Siddhi Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. And when they saw their child, then they were khush. So, an example of how sukh and dukh happens to all of us. It doesn't just happen to people. Let's say we sometimes think ke eh banda jada paad karda, seva karda, ta enu jada sukh milega. That person might get a lot of sukh because they're a Gursikh. Let's say if they're Amritari, or let's say they are great sevadar doing lots of seva. Nahi, Sad Sangat Ji. That person is going to get just as much dukh as anybody else. That person is going to get just as much sukh as anybody else. Sukh and dukh is subjective. It's what someone might think is happiness and joy, sukh. Another might think that's dukh. Another one might think is dukh. Another one might think it's sukh. It's our inner emotions and feelings that make us perceive sukh and dukh. But a Gursikh who is in Sahaj Avastha, a Gursikh who is at that Chauta Pad, a Gursikh who is in Chardi Kala, will never be touched by sukh and dukh of life. They will never be touched by it. And this is what Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj is saying. That Gursikh who is not touched by sukh, happiness, and dukh and suffering in life, also lob moho abhimanna. Lob meaning greed, moh meaning attachment, and abhimanna means egotistical pride, ego, man rakhna. That Gursikh is not touched by any of those things, by not being seeing ke main avi cheez le lama, avi le lama. Oh single bada sona shastra hai, let's say for example, main bhi uto baddi hor shastra leni hai. You know, that level of greed sometimes we have within us, right? That's just one example. It could be anything. There's a Gursikhs out there who don't have any of that. They don't have any attachment, not just to the worldly things, but even to their, let's say, their loved ones, their relationships. I'll give you an example, Sad Sangat Ji. More attachment. When a loved one leaves this world, I've been having this vichar for the past few months. For personal reasons, I'm sure some of you may know. Attachment is something that can really drive us into a pit. When we have this more, Sad Sangat Ji, this attachment to a loved one can really drag you down. But there's a difference between more attachment and love. If we have an extreme amount of attachment with anything, let's say a parent, and that parent is gone. So Sad Sangat Ji, that attachment will put us in such a state of suffering, of sadness and grief, because we're attached. We haven't been able to let go. If we had a reduced level of attachment, but that doesn't mean to say we have a reduced level of love. There's a difference. It's a very fine difference. It's hard to juggle it in our minds. But if we accept the fact that this is going to happen and it's happened and it's gone, time has passed, that person's gone, we control our attachment, we suffer less. We will grieve less. We will be in less suffering because the attachment isn't there. We're in acceptance. Ho gaya, hona si, it's done. This is what Guru Sahib Ji is talking about. Where if there's a Gursikh who is not attached by any sukh, any dukh, they're not bothered by any greed, any kinds of attachment, and any egotistical pride, abhiman, ego, hankar rakhna, ki mere ko aa cheez ya, oh cheez ya, I have this, I have that, having none of that. If there's a Gursikh who has none of those things, none of those vices, Guru Sahib Ji explained what happens to that Gursikh. Hanji.
Kaho Nanak sun remna, so Murat Bhagavan.
Tan Satguru Siddhi Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, they explained to us that Kaho Nanak sun remna, oh my mind. The first talking to their mind, Siddhi Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji are unbelievable, Sad Sangat Ji, in their Bani, where they're saying many times sun remna. Listen, oh mind. They're talking to themselves, but they're also telling us this teaching. They're saying, Sun Remana, oh my mind, is something for us to reflect upon. Can we be in such a state where none of these things affect us? Because if we can, truly can, and that's our own reflection, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj would say, So Murat Bhagavan. You are the form, that person would be the form of God themselves. Now, Sad Sangat Ji, we are daily affected by these things, every day. We're constantly on social media. The dopamine hit gives us some level of suck. We think we're in a bit of joy. That's going to be hitting us. We hear some negativity, and that gives us a level of dukh and anxiety. We're always fluctuating in life. But just imagine if we were nirlep, detached from all of these things. Nothing bothered us. So the analogy I sometimes talk about is like a sine wave. So if any scientists are out here have seen in physics or in maths, you have sine waves. You have like frequencies that go up and down, right? Imagine if the height and the peak of that wave is your sukh and the lower part, the trough, is the dukh. Imagine just being still in the middle. None of them things bothering you in life. That's the equilibrium, that's the equipoise, the chardi kala that Guru Sahib Ji is trying to get us into. And if we can get there, or any Gursikh, any person who is in there, Guru Sahib Ji is saying that person is like a form of Paramatma themselves. They're not affected by greed, not affected by attachment, not affected by ego. Hanji.
Ustat nindya na hijehe kanchan loho saman.
Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, they continue this description of how to lead this balanced life. And they'll say to us, Ustat and Nindya nahe jahe. Ustat means praise. Nindya means negativity, slander, someone putting another person down. Nahe jahe. Imagine this Gursikh now, who is not affected by any praise, not affected by any form of slander and negativity. Ustat nindya nahe jahe. If that person is not affected by any of those things, and kanchan means gold, and loho means iron, and that Gursikh who sees kanchan, gold, and iron the same. So let's just put that into context, everyday context. So sometimes what happens is, if someone says something really nice to us, that you've achieved something, they praise you, koi kisi koi ustati kardaya, koi changyai dasta, someone tells you about something good. Often, myself included, our head gets so big we can't get through that door. You think, oh my God, I've been pumped up here. They've been pumped up so much. That's the ustat that Guru Sahib is talking about. And it happens to us on a daily basis. Someone says something to us that is so nice to hear, and it really uplifts you. It feeds your ego. Feeds my ego. And all of a sudden, that's the ustat that is affecting us, affecting my mind. Nindya, if someone says something bad to you, what state of mind does that put you in? Nindya, if someone says anything bad to you, or if someone does that nindya, let's say that person is slandering someone. These are really bad vices. Nindya, jugli, slandering, talking negatively about somebody. These are things that Guru Sahib Ji say to us, bilkul nahi karne, we don't do this. But imagine that Gursikh who isn't affected by any praise, doesn't get pumped up, if you see what I mean, doesn't get that egotistical pride that their ego is growing from ustat, and they're not affected in any way, shape or form by nindya, by being slandered or had something negative said to them. And then they say kanchan loho saman, and somebody who doesn't see the difference between gold and iron and doesn't care about the value of gold and the value of iron. And in a very similar way, Sad Sangat Ji, again thinking about Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, when Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji were a child, it was their elder brother Baba Gurdita Ji's Anand Karaj. And the whole parvar, everybody, Sri Guru Hargobind Patsah Ji, the king of kings, the Sache Pathshah, the true king, they're dressed in beautiful robes, they got their jewelry on, they got a kalgi on their dastar, and the whole family, Mata Nanki Ji. Can you just imagine this scene? Guru Sahib Ji, their eldest son, Baba Gurdita Ji, they're going to get married in another village, and they're going on a horse, and everybody is with them, the whole Janaid, they're all traveling. And Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, who was known as Tyagamal at the time, as a child, Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj are going along, and they're also dressed in beautiful clothes. And they come to the Janaid, they come to the village as the Barat. And when they get to the village, Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, they see in the distance a young child, really poor, has no clothes on, looking for food, trying to find something to keep him warm and some food to eat. And Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, what do? They're dressed in beautiful clothes, in a beautiful robe, a nice chola, and they're wearing maybe gold kade. They've got jewelry, necklaces of jewels made. They go to this child and they say to this child, why are you looking for food on the floor? What are you doing? And this child says that I'm so poor, I haven't got any clothes to wear. My family are so poor, we haven't got any food. And Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, they were just the master of being able to give anything away. They were Tyagamal. Tyagamal means a master of renunciation, the master of someone who can give anything away, forsake anything they have. Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, they gave their chola. Imagine this, they're at a wedding. Imagine just going to a nankaraj and this child gives all their kapde to this poor child who's not wearing anything to keep them warm. And then they give them their jewelry, their gold, their kara, whatever they might have had, they give it to his child, say, go and use this to buy yourself some food for your family. This is Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, and as they're saying in their Bani, Ustat Nindya Nahe Jai Kanchan Lo Saman, that someone who doesn't see any difference between metal of, let's say, iron, that's the law, and kanchan as in the gold. They see no difference between that. To them it's the same thing. No difference. Guru Sahib Ji tell us what that person is like. Hanji.
Kaho Nanak sun re mana, mukt tafi ta jaan.
Tan Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, they say ke Kaho Nanak sun re mana, saying again, sun re mana, oh my mind, listen to this. Something for us to reflect upon. Mukt tahe ta jaan. That person is truly mukt. Mukt means liberated. Satsanguji, just a quick reflection on mukti. Sometimes we hear this shabad, Rajna chahu, Muktana chahu, Manpreet charan kamlare. And often the translations, when we look at this shabad, where this Maharaj is saying to us that Rajna chahu, I don't want no wealth, I don't want no Raj, no kingdom. Muktana chahu, I don't even want liberation. Manpreet charan kamlare, all I want is the preeti, the love of your charan, of your Gurbani, of having you in my hirda, in my heart. And the question comes around mukti, ke in this shabad, what is Guru Sahib Ji trying to say to us? Ke what kind of mukti are they saying? That we don't want mukti. Rajna chaho, muktana chaho. But isn't that a little bit, I won't say against, but countering what Gurbani says in other places, where Maharaj is saying, okay, you want to try and achieve liberation, get out of this 84 lakh June, be liberated from this whole cycle of 8.4 million species. So what mukti is the Shabad saying here? Rajna chaho, muktana chaho. I don't want mukti, but Guru Sahib Ji is talking about mukti in Bani here. Satsangaji, there's 5 different kinds of mukti. And Guru's Kirpa, I'll try and explain these. First kind of mukti is Salok Mukti. And this is from, you could say, old Paratan, olden Indian knowledge and texts, like from the Vedas or Upanishads, where there's different kinds of mukti that we can achieve. Now, if you were to, certainly in the traditional faiths of like Hinduism and other older faiths, they would believe that if you had faith in a deity and you worshipped a deity, Slok Mukti is a mukti that you would want to achieve where you got into the heavenly realm of that deity. Let's just say for example, Vishnuji. You wanted to praise Vishnuji so much in these olden days, they would believe that when you praise them and worship them, you would achieve Slok Mukti, which is mukti within their heavenly abode. Then you have Sameep Mukti. Sameep Mukti is where you're you're worshipping that deity, but you're not just in their heavenly abode, that area, you're closer to them. You're maybe, let's say, like close to that individual, that deity themselves, close to Vishnuji. Then you get Sarupa Mukti, where when you're worshipping that deity, you're actually wanting to get their Sarup, their form. You want to become like them. And then you have Sajaj Mukti. Sajaj Mukti is where you actually want to try and worship that deity and get their powers, or try and achieve their powers. So there's different levels of people historically, maybe even today, want to achieve different levels of mukti, of that deity. But Tan Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, they have come and taught us that we don't need any of those kinds of muktiyan. We don't need that kind of liberation. The mukti that we strive for from Guru Nanak Dev Ji's path is Keval Mukti. And Keval Mukti is us just being one with Paramatma. Us just going back to the source, back to Ik Oankar. Going back to that one Akal Purakh Vaheguru Ji. That's the mukti that we're trying to achieve. So in that Shabad Rajna Chaho, Mukt na Chaho, the mukti that Guru Sahib is talking about here is the Saloks, Sameepa, Sajoja, Sarupa Mukti. Them 4 muktis. We don't want them. That's not for us. That's like Guru Nanak Dev Ji's path is beyond that. The mukti we want is to be one with the Akal Purakh Vaheguru Ji. We want to be out of that 84 lakh June. You know, I often think about this, Hana Sad Sangat Ji. 8.4 million life species. Gurbani sanu dasdi hai 84 lakh June de vich Sadi Atma goes round all of them cycles. And right at the end, for some deeds and karam we have done in our last life, Guru Sahib Ji has blessed us with this human form. E manas janam dalamb hai. Naam bina birtha sab jai. This is such a rare form to have. And without Naam and Simran and Bhagati and Guru Sahib Ji's seva, how tired, or how much of a waste will this life have been? And I often think, our Atma, has it really been through all them 8.4 million life cycles? And then, how many times has it gone through our life cycle? How many times have we been human beings and not achieved mukti? Our Atma must be quite tired. If tiredness and fatigue exists in the spiritual world, who knows? But have you ever wondered? I certainly ponder this. How tired must our Atma be that we've gone through that many cycles of being a species? We might have been a spider or an ant or a bird or a fish. We've either been squashed and killed or been eaten. Who knows? Let's use this life. Let's use this Jivan to be able to connect with Paramatma and achieve that mukti through Simran, through Naam Abhyas, through meditating on Akal Purakh Vaheguru and following Gurbani, following Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji's path. And ki pata, what do we know? Ke Maharaj Ji Kirpa de naal, maybe we're mukt in this janam, or maybe we might have to come back again and be mukt again in another janam. Who knows? But Guru Sahib Ji ek vari apa ona de ho gaya na. Once we're Guru Sahib Ji sevadar, once we're Guru Sahib Ji, we said Guru Sahib Ji mera sir le lo. I'm just yours, I fall at your feet. Mele leho dayal, pramatabo harya, rakhlevo deen dayal. Maharaj say these shabads to us to be able to help us connect with Paramatma and just fall at their feet. And this is why Guru Sahib Ji is saying to us, Go Nanak sunre mana, mukta tahe tejan. Know that Gursikh is truly achieving mukti when they see no ustat and nindya, praise and slandering or negativity affecting them, and they don't see the difference between gold and iron. They see them the same. Hanji.
Harakh sog jaka nahi, bari meet saman.
Guru Sahib Ji, Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, they say harak and sog. So now they're looking at another side of life. Harak means joy, sog means sadness. Jaake nahi, harak sog jaake nahi, bari meet saman. So now Guru Sahib Ji is talking about, again, suffering, sog, sadness, harak, kushi, joy. Someone who is not affected by any of those. And they see bari meet saman, they see an enemy and a friend as the same. Just imagine that for a moment, Sad Sangat Ji. Can we truly see someone who we've got a vendetta with and our best friend as the same? Sometimes in our friend circles or in our families or in the community, we sometimes think, "Main ਉਹਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੁਲਾਉਣਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਫਤਿਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੁਲਾਈ." Or ਇਹਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਗੱਲ ਚੰਗੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ. Someone didn't say anything properly to me, or they said something negative to me, or I heard from a third person that this person said this to me. Chinese whispers ਕਿੰਨੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ. ਲੋਕੀ ਦਾਲ ਮਸਾਲਾ ਮਿਰਚਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਲਾ ਲੂ ਕੇ ਗੱਲ ਵਧਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ. ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਤਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ. But this affects us when we hear it ਕਿ ਫਲਾਣੇ ਨੇ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਆ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ. Somebody said this to you. and they're talking negatively about you, sometimes you're like, right, mate, I'm not going to speak to that person ever again. And it brings a level of anger in us, and we're affected by that. Whether that person said it directly to us or through a third person. That could be our berry. But we could also have really, really good friends. And we forget in those moments that Akal Purukh Vaheguru Ji actually exists in everyone and everything. Maharaj would say to us in their Bani that there's no difference between someone who is good and bad. Bura pala ko kisno kahiye? Sagle ji tumhare. Main kenu bura kama? Main kenu changa kama? How can I say who's good and how can I say who's bad? Sagle ji tumhare, they're all your people. They're all of your beings. Can we imagine that we're ever in that state? Can we ever achieve that? If we were to adopt Guru Sahib Ji's Bani and their teachings and what Guru Sahib Ji is giving to us as a hukam, we can certainly try to reprogram our mind to think like this. So Guru Sahib Ji is saying that that person who's not affected by harak, happiness, sog, sadness, and then it's saying jaake nahi, harak sog jaake nahi, beri meet saman hanje.
Kaho nanak sun re manav, mukt tahe ta jaan.
So again, Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, they repeat that last pankti. They say, Kaho nanak sun re mana, oh my mind, listen, mukt tahe ta jaan. That one again is liberated or will achieve liberation when they see no difference between happiness and joy. They're not affected by it, and they're not affected by anyone who's an enemy and anyone who is a friend. They see everyone as the same. Tan Satguru Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj have explained to us that in life we will find these different elements of on these scales of balancing our life. We will find people who are going to give us sadness. We'll find things that will give us joy. We'll find things that will cause us enemies. We'll find people who are great friends. We will see things that is gold. We'll see things that is iron. All of this will happen in life. The point is, how do we deal with that? How do we react to that? How do we handle that? What is our state of mind going to be when we face those situations? And Sad Sangaji, if we can handle those situations in a state of sahaj, in a place of love and compassion, of daya, when we can come and be respectful to anyone who comes our way, when we're not so attached to our materialistic things and our families in that way that will put us in a state of suffering, Sad Sangaji, then we can truly, truly be on that path of trying to walk towards mukti and liberation. Sad Sangaji, Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, I'll just share this shabad with you, because in this shabad, the Maharaj covers all of these things and more, because this Bani of Salok Mahalla Nava, Guru Sahib Ji in 57 sloks tell us so many things, and we're going to go through these holy with Guruji's kirpa. But this one shabad effectively is a replica of what Maharaj is saying here. And we've heard this shabad quite a lot. It comes as a Hukam Nama as well. In Rag Sorat Mahalla Nava, Guru Sahib Ji talk about Jo nar dukh mein dukh nahi mane. That person Jo nar dukh mein dukh nahi mane, sukh sneho aur pain nahi jaake kanchan mati mane. And in this shabad, Guru Sahib Ji talk about that person who doesn't find any dukh when they're in a state of dukh, when they're not affected by any kind of suffering, even though to us it might be such a suffering and a horrible situation. Sukha saneho, they see sukh and saneho, they're not afraid of anyone, they're not affected by any sukha. Kanchan mati mane, they see dust and gold as the same. Rahao, that's the Rahao Pankti. Guru Sahib Ji continue, they say, Neh nindya, neh ustat jaake, lob moh abhimana. That person, they're describing a person now. They're describing a Gursik who's not affected by these things. Neh nindya, neh ustat jaake, lob moh abhimana, not affected by any slander, not affected by praise. They're not affected by any greed, attachment, or any kind of ego. Abhimana. Then they will continue and they will say in the next pankti, they will say, Harak sog jake nahi, Harak sog te rehe niaro, nahe man apamana. They're not affected by any happiness and dukh. They're not affected by any kind of form of man, pride and apamana. They're not affected by anything like that. Asa, mansa, continuing our desires. Asa, mansa, sagal tyage. Forsake all of those things. Forget those desires of what you might want in the world. Asa, mansa, sagal tyage. Rehe, jagte rehe niara. They're completely separate from the world. They have no desire for worldly possessions. They don't want anything. This is a Gursikh that Maharaj is describing. They'll continue and they will say, Kam, Krodh. That Kam being lust, Krodh, anger. Kam, Krodh, je parse nahin. Kam and Krodh doesn't touch that person. Then they say, Tehkat, Brahm, Nivasa. That person is not affected by any of those things. Only in their kata, in their heart, in their hirda, in their being, Brahm Nivasa, Akal Purukh Vaheguru Ji, Brahm, God resides within them truly, and it's being shone. You can see that because they're not affected by any of these things. Maharaj continue in the next pankti to say, Gur Kirpa, Jo Tehnar Kini. They say in the next pankti that through Guru's Kirpa, this can happen only through Guru's Kirpa. Gur Kirpa, Je Narko Kini. That person who is given Guru's Kirpa, that person who has that blessing, none of this can happen without those blessings. We cannot get into this state without those blessings. If we think that we can do this on our own, I'm afraid, Sad Sangaji, that's been a bit foolish. Without the blessings of Guru Sahib Ji, this let's say this state of mind, this kind of qualities of life can only be achieved by them, only by our Guru. That's why we come and we beg to our Guru. We say, Maharaj, tusi sanu rakh lavo. Help us. When we do parakarma around Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, we say, Maharaj, be the center of my life. Because without you, I am nothing. I can't do any of this. We need Guru Sahib Ji to be the center of our life in every moment. And then through their blessings, can we achieve, can we be that state of sahaj? Can we be have these qualities within us? Where they say to us in that pankti, Gur Kirpa, Je Narko Kini, Ehe Jugta Pachani. We will then know this Jugti, this way of life. Te Ehe Jugta Pachani, this framework within which we can live and think and speak those words and be. If we understand that framework, Sad Sangaji, we can also achieve that mukti that Guru Sahib Ji is talking about. In the Akhri Pankti, Maharaj nips it in the bud and they say it in such a beautiful way. Nanak leen pyo gobind syon, jo pani sang pani. Maharaj says that that person, that being, is going to merge in with the one. They're going to be completely immersed with the one. In the same way, pani meets pani, water is mixed with water. Je ek cup pani da le liya, we get one glass of water and we mix it in a bata of water. Can you take that same pani out? Nahi. You can't take the same pani out in that was in that glass. There's no way you can differentiate. They've just merged together in that same way. Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj said to us that Gursikh who has understood the Jugti, the way that Guru is teaching us to live life, achieves those qualities, and they are like Paramatma themselves. They've merged in with the one, like Pani, water is mixed with any other kind of water. You can't separate it. That is what we can achieve. We have that potential, but we have to work hard at it and walk on Guru Sahib Ji's path. Hanji. Tan Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, they say to us, that being who isn't affected by any fear, and doesn't give anybody else fear. So ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਡਰਾਉਣਾ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਡਰਦੇ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ. So let's just think about this. When we engage and we talk to somebody, let's not be afraid of that person, because we shouldn't be afraid of anybody apart from Akal Purkh Vaheguru Ji and Guru Sahib Ji. And we don't inflict fear on anybody. That's not what we're here to do. Because that is the opposite of daya, compassion. So if we're in a school situation or a work situation, we're not here to scare somebody. We shouldn't be there to make someone feel scared of us, because we should be welcoming people with open arms and from a place of love and compassion, saying, how can I help you? We can't do that if we're in a state of fear. Guru Sahib Ji is talking about that Gursikh, who doesn't give fear to anybody and isn't affected by any fear. Hanji. And Tan Satguru Siddhi Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj again are saying to us, reflect, they're saying it to themselves, Ko Nanak sun re mana, oh my mind, listen to this thing. And they're saying it to us as well, Ko Nanak sun re mana, Gyani Tahib Khan. A Gyani is someone who is wise, who has Brahm Gyan, someone who is truly wise and can navigate life on this physical plane, and they have that knowledge. Tahib Khan, that person is wise when they are able to understand that they are not here to inflict fear and even be fearful of anyone. That is what Guru Sahib Ji is defining as a Gyani. So Sad Sangat Ji, Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj has blessed us with this teaching in these Saloks about how can we balance our life. See, what can we do? This is something that we need to go home and reflect upon. Only when we reflect in our own space and do vichar and discuss with our friends and our family, can we then really, really rinse it, really understand it. Because then we understand, how can I change my mind to be in line with Guru's wisdom as opposed to the worldly wisdom. It's the worldly wisdom that will pull us away from the divine. But Guru's wisdom will push us towards the divine. The world will say to udar nu na ja. Don't go towards a Guru, don't go towards your faith, don't go towards Vaheguru. The world will pull you away. But the Guru's Bani, Guru's Kirtan, Guru's Seva, Guru's Path, Guru's Sangat, Guru's Simran will bring us towards Akal Purkh Vaheguru Ji and save us through his life. So Sad Sangat Ji, going through today's Katha of these 4 sloks, Das has made many mistakes. I know I have. Please forgive me for any of those mistakes, and I just ask for everyone's blessings and Guru Sahib Ji's blessings to allow this seva to continue. Not just the seva that we do on a Saturday, but the seva that happens throughout the week. Sad Sangat Ji, the sevadars from Sikh Inspiration, from Basics of Sikhi, all of us are just sevadars, just trying to do the best that we can to be able to help our children, help our brothers and sisters, and help us navigate this life and join with Guru's Bani the best we can. And all I can ask for is your asisa, Sad Sangat Ji, and Guru Sahib Ji's asisa, that this seva can continue. Lekhe ke tana chhoote hai kin kin pulan har, baksan har baksle nanak par utar. Maharaj kirpa karan deho sajna seesadiyan jo hove sahib syo mel hanji peka ho ko det na na pe manat aan ko nanak sun re mana gyani tahe bakhan. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.